One of the threats is the concern for the lack of variety if the big companies are taking over and monopolizing the cultivation of cannabis seeds. The genetic variety of seeds is at the basis of the entire industry.
Do we want big interests to control our food?
Look, for the past 10,000 years, these crops were from mankind.
It was from us, from all of us, from mankind. And now we have to accept that some big company comes around, sticks some genetic marker in there, says, hey, now it's only us. That's theft. They're stealing from us. This is what we have to ask.
So, ladies and gentlemen, on the stage, Ben Dronkers, the man who knows a lot about seeds. Give him a welcome, please.
Thank you.
Alan, we just saw a little film from you, we made of you in Berlin. Again, a little bit, well, what was your main message? I mean, it's pretty clear, but why is it so important?
We are in a situation that today in the world everything is changing, which is very beautiful because things are changing the right way. People nowadays are more educated. We know now that the things that we say about these plants is real. The only problem is that systems, regulations, laws that change also in a way are very rigid in many places. So this means that it doesn't allow for a certain amount of freedom for people to have some plans themselves. My problem is, and that is the reason why I was also talking in Berlin, that all the patenting or trying to own certain genetics, and that's one discussion that was very important there, but it was especially a discussion about money. The real thing is, and the real problem is not about money, is that we, and it means us, all of us, mankind, are about to lose an enormous potential of genetic diversity of cannabis. Because everything's changing. And if the new systems don't allow a certain amount of freedom, then these genetics will be lost because there will be only a few companies or a few structures that can do or can own or can grow or can possess. Where we, for example, also have the freedom to grow our own tobacco plants. We're not allowed to sell it then, but we're allowed to share it with our friends, and it's one of those things that we also have in the Dutch law. We need something like that everywhere for cannabis, because if people are able to grow a certain amount of plants and have some seeds, and 4 plants in Holland is definitely not enough. We went a long time ago with Minister Zorgdrager, we went from 50 plants to 4 plants. Whatever happened there, I don't know. But the reality is that the only professional grower that exists is a grower that sells his crop. People are just playing with some seeds and grow some of their own plants. If it's 4 plants or 15 plants or maybe 30 plants, it doesn't matter. But the important thing is that it is possible. If it's not possible, we create a system where a lot of these varieties that are out there now and owned by people and cultivated again and again, we are about to lose them. So
I think most people also think we have, if we can grow 5 plants ourselves, or like in Colombia, 7 plants, we are in a hallelujah already, because, it's not even allowed anymore in most countries that you have 5 plants or more. So why is it so important? Why is it so important for people to realize that you should have you're able to have more than 5 or 7 or 10?
It's all about the definition of professional growing or not. And personal cultivation, it's the border right now in the law, and we have many rules and regulations that describe what makes somebody professional. In Holland, you're already a professional grower if you know how to connect a timer to a light, to a lamp, you know, which is silly, because that is not somebody who is, you know, everybody can put a plug in a timer, and then you're not suddenly a professional of something. But in the Dutch law, you are suddenly a professional grower because you use a light bulb and a timer. So, and this is silly. This is a rigid system that right now creates a situation where people cannot even grow 4 plants, where people get thrown out of their house, and where all this, where, you know, where people have to steal their electricity. But again, long time ago, when, you know, when I was still a lot younger, here in Holland, nobody was stealing electricity, because why would you steal electricity? There was like no reason to steal electricity. Up till the moment that suddenly, in the newspaper, there was a story about the meter man coming together with the police asking, why do you use so much electricity? And then suddenly everybody panicked. Either they threw the garden out of the house, or they started to steal electricity, because if you had a high electricity bill, they were going to arrest you. So first, what we did in Holland very well is create a problem, and then we say, oh, you see, these growers, they're criminals because they steal electricity. Yeah, this is the silly thing, you know.
But this catch-22. I mean, why would we do a politic view behind this all?
Well, the political view since 1991, because then when the problem started. Up till then they were talking about spear point policy. It was like we were ahead of everybody else in the world with cannabis. This turned into an axe, and it didn't deliver. We went from not so many rules, where coffee shops and growers could do still a lot, to slowly situations where growers are criminals now, and this the real change started, I think, for that in '98. But where do we go now? We had demotivation policies. That's how it's sort of like sold to us by politicians. Yeah, we're trying to demotivate everybody from doing this because it's bad. I think, you know, we should be, right now also the Dutch people are very educated about medicine, about fiber hemp. And beginning of the 90s, this was, you know, people didn't believe it. They thought you were funny. If you said it was a medicine, people were laughing at you. And they said, you know, you have been smoking too many of those joints, or something funny like that, but you are not taken seriously. And we are way past that now. We all have the internet, we have information. The public, we the people, again, are not stupid. So how long can they sell this toleration? You know, how long can you tolerate? I asked this question also. Toleration started in 1972. You know, when is it, you know, my question was also, when is it our culture? How long do we need to have embraced cannabis within our society to say, now it's also our part of our culture? Because that's what I think in Holland.
And is it also because you're obviously Sensi Seeds, your family and all that, but like, for example, one documentary, an American guy said, we should have stand in Amsterdam or in Holland instead of in Colorado or whatever. I mean, does it also it frustrated the business basically if you're from Holland, if you compare it with other countries like now in America and Canada, Israel?
Sure. You know, it's been very, very frustrating here in Holland. They've been with their heels in the sand for how long? And you know, we as a people have to push. This is what we've been doing with our educational program, where we have our museum in Amsterdam and now one in Barcelona. And the same thing, you know, with the fiber hemp. People thought that we were nutters when we started talking about fiber hemp and that it was such a wonderful plant and you can make so many wonderful things out of it. You know, now we already have 25 years of a big hemp factory here in Holland, and hemp is a reality. So it's not anymore that somebody can say like, you can say this, but we think it's just bullshit. You just want to legalize weed. You just want to smoke weed, huh? And we are past that. This is not the reality anymore. We're not some more funny hippies or silly or no. Everybody understands. We are at that point. The only people that somehow never seem to understand is our politicians. And then the question always is, why are they looking certain ways? And then there's interest, we understand, from big pharmaceutical companies or whatever that also influence the situation of how we deal with CBD or medicine in general, cannabis medicine. We've seen Germany change now, but again, there also, for a doctor to prescribe any opioids is easy. You want something? No problem. If they want to prescribe cannabis, they need to fill this form. They need to have another doctor sign for this. They need a stack of this kind of paperwork just to prescribe cannabis. Isn't that silly? And that was one of the reasons why the doctors, the Union of Doctors, was against this new law. Not because they were against cannabis, but because it was so silly that they need to do all this stuff for just prescribing something that is non-toxic, and compared to all these opioids and stuff, all the other stuff they prescribe, definitely safe and not dangerous under medical supervision. So, again, we see laws and civil servants and politicians, and we see reality on the ground. Reality on the ground for patients, or reality on the ground for people that are working with genetics.
And talking about genetics, for example, how can you save or how can you protect local farmers, for example, in Colombia, who are now there are big companies from Canada, from Switzerland, trying to butt in?
Well, I think, again, the speech that I was having over there in Berlin is one thing clear. All our food crops, and also cannabis, has been ours for the past 10,000 years. And ours means us, mankind, all of us. Okay? Now, if big companies can come in there and say, okay, sorry, now this is only us, they're stealing from us. Okay? It is from us, from all of us. And it's very important to preserve what we have, especially cannabis. Prohibition caused already so much loss of genetics. If the changes of today, the new laws, because I'm living in Asia the last 10 years, and I've seen even there all these countries are changing their laws because there's children with epileptic syndromes that really need this CBD. So the government has to make this possible. Nobody wants to not save the children and let them die in one of their fits that they have. So there's a certain responsibility even for all of us to open the doors, to see that everywhere in the world knowledge about this is changing.
And if you then talk about this, like the amount of plants you really need to have or you should have, and then the whole political debate is not even thinking about this.
The political debate has been weird. They created, for example, a list of EU hemp varieties, fiber hemp varieties. This list was originally created to stimulate growers, to stimulate breeders, to make new varieties. And then if you could register them on that list, then for so many years they were yours. They were sort of a protection or a patent right for a limited amount of time. Now, this list is a prohibitive list. It is like the only plants you can grow. And if you want to grow another hemp variety, you need an opium license. So, what happened? Before, when I was not growing a variety on this, from this EU list, I didn't get subsidized. The subsidies are gone. The list is still there. And suddenly I can only grow what's on the list. Subsidy or not. And this is weird things that we in general maybe not realize, but because we also have a fiber hemp company, we have to deal with these weird situations. Or the weird situation that we cannot really produce CBD. And CBD is produced in Germany, and then it moves over here, and the world is weird, and Holland is definitely also one of the weird places.
And if you compare it, for example, Holland, but one is one, but if you compare, for example, the possibilities now there are in Israel and in Canada, and still the regulations here in Europe, how far is this going to basically hold back the whole industry? For example, you're talking about, for example, hemp flax.
I think in many countries, when it comes to medical cannabis, Holland has lost his primary position very, very long time ago. So again, our policies since 1991 have not been good at all. Yeah. So we lost that position. In fact, I am maybe one of the only Dutch people that realizes it and is walking through Amsterdam and feeling ashamed that a tourist that is coming to Amsterdam and is going into a coffee shop here is getting some horrible stuff for a very inexpensive price. Well, I know people in other parts of the world, California or Spain or everywhere else almost, even in countries where it's very illegal, they have better weed for a better price. What's happening here in Holland? We only see some turbo varieties, fast a lot for, no drying period, don't wait to the right moment, go. Nobody cares about it, nobody loves anymore cultivation.
You have ideas to change that?
Sure.
So how can we?
Thank you. Sure, the idea is very simple, August. And that is that, we go back to the 40 plants. And we say, this is free. And if the Cannabis Bureau wants to be important and give everybody a license for that, fine with me. But one thing for sure is that patients with not a lot of money or people who just want to grow their own cannabis should have this freedom, just like we have the freedom to grow our own tobacco or make our own beer or do some other funny stuff. Okay? So we already have stuff regulated like tobacco, so it's not so difficult. It's just the political will. And now we're going to end up with Christian Democrats again in the Dutch government. So I don't know. I think I better go another 10 years and come back then. Maybe,
Are there any questions from the audience, maybe for Ellen? Any questions? I see someone in the back.
So where would you recommend going? Because I saw there was many projects, for example, in Thailand, to grow hemp as well, or other strains.
Yeah, in Thailand, they allow to grow hemp. In fact, in Thailand and Laos and Vietnam and Cambodia, in the mountains there's a hill tribe people called the Hmong. And especially in Thailand, they have the freedom already. The Queen gave a long time ago the possibility to grow hemp, because they grow hemp for religious purposes. They have to be buried in the hemp clothes from grandma or granddad. Otherwise, they cannot find each other at the other side, or something like that. It's very beautiful. So that's legal. And why? Because they grow hemp. They really grow hemp because they smoke opium. That's their traditional thing. So now, when it comes to other farmers or companies growing in Thailand, for example, you see that it's right now the tobacco monopoly group of Thailand that is starting to produce CBD. So again, it is always in countries like that, it is Mr. Big that can do, and that's the way it works. So unfortunately, because again, they have been limiting the amount of genetics that farmers can use. So again, with a rigid system that doesn't allow for breeding new varieties and maintaining these varieties that we really have. So.
Okay. Ellen, time is up.
Okay.
Is there something in the last remark maybe you want to say that you maybe didn't say already? a last message?
Hemp for victory.
Okay, thank you very much. Ben Dronkers.